Welcome back to the summit about flattening your fear. This is all about dealing with those things that hold you back from your destiny and your purpose. And we want to address fear. We want to move it out of the way or use it for our own purposes. So I'm excited today to bring you body language expert, Lisa Mitchell. Lisa, welcome to the summit. It's exciting to have you here. I'm a little concerned about how much I use my hands and all of that because you're going to be judging me as I talk.
I won't. I'm pretty much off duty today. I'm here to educate and hopefully equip everyone who's watching and joining us today to feel a little less fear and a little bit more confidence based on how they're showing up in the places and spaces where they're walking into relationship and into conversations with people.
I love it. I love it. So I can't wait to get into this. First of all, tell everybody, who you are, what your background is, what is it that you do?
Yeah, sure. I love it. My background is vast and varied. I grew up in a very small town in Ohio, so you can imagine how it plays with my family and friends, or when I tell them I'm a body language expert and a communications expert. I started on a traditional career path. I was 18 years in operations for a national media company and just had some life collapses. We're talking about fear today, and I had a lot of fear show up in some business and personal pursuits, and it ended up really changing my life in some pretty drastic ways. And figuring that I did not want to do that again, I got real curious about how to solve my problem, because in those dark moments of like hard honesty, the problem that I had that got me where I was not that I wasn't smart and not that I wasn't capable, but it was that I was not communicating. And so knowing that communication was my problem, and knowing that there's a whole study of science around communication, I really dedicated myself into learning that. I fell in love with body language and nonverbal science. I think it is such a magical, and I don't use that term lightly, it is a magical tool, and it is universally available to everyone. And I teach the same thing to third graders that I do to CEOs.
Oh, that's cool.
Like everyone can use this. Everyone can feel more confident. Everyone can face their fear with better communication. And I've dedicated my work to that through communication studies and forensic interviewing. So I love to really dig into the words that people are using and how words help people overcome fear when you have the right language to express yourself. So putting it all together, it's just it's really a great toolkit to help equip you to face the world with less fear and greater confidence, and really to understand what's happening on the other side of your face too, which is like such a key piece of the puzzle.
I love it when you say that. I've heard you say that on video, understanding what's happening on the other side of your face. So really everybody needs this. The more that we can increase our confidence, overcome our fears, it's not just public speaking, it's how we interact with people and making sure that we are projecting what we intend to
Exactly.
and doing it in a way that results in successful communication. So you go into corporations, you do this on TV. Tell us all the ways that you serve people with this talent.
Yeah, my favorite thing in the world is to be on a stage, which is weird because I don't like public speaking historically, and now it's what I do for a living. So it's funny how the right set of tools can just really empower you and equip you to do things you used to be afraid of. And I'm a living case study of the power of that. So I love to get into a room of people that are curious and that want to know how to just feel better about how they're showing up in a room. So I do keynote speaking all over the place. Winning high consequence conversations is one of my favorite topics. And that can be with a variety of stakeholders, whether it's clients or coworkers or family members or in the broader communication spectrum in the social media space. There's a system and a way you can do that really easily. I love being on TV and just hoping I'm reaching that one person who's watching or listening that just needs that encouragement and that little extra bit of confidence and that tool that they can use. I just have to trust that that's happening when I'm showing up in those spaces. And I really just love having great conversations with people like you and doing podcasts and summits and connecting with my clients and in their spaces and their conference rooms with their team. So it's kind of a mixed bag of the how. But I try not to trip on the how with anything and just know that my purpose is to connect with people and equip people. And so I just get to show up and have fun doing that in all sorts of different ways.
I love it. I love it because, purpose is about changing at least one person's life for the better. And that's what you're trying to do. So it's funny that you talk about public speaking because I used to be the same way, but now give me a microphone, get me on stage. Like I just want to be on stage. Like I went into dramas in our church just to be on stage. I mean, and it's funny how that changes in your life. So think back to the fear before all of that. What tools did you use, or what do you even use now when you have that adrenaline feeling, right? To channel that into something positive. What are the things you tell yourself? Just give us some little tools and techniques for people that have that fear.
Yeah, it's funny. I've had a couple people because here's the thing. I have fear every time before I walk onto stage. Oh, like no matter how well rehearsed I am, no matter how much I know my material, no matter how much I love my purpose, I am afraid, which I now call excitement, because physiologically your body reacts the same way to fear as it does to excitement. So I've renamed it. I've used language in a positive way. And people that have been in my hotel room or in the green room with me have seen me kind of, I call it spinning. I'm like, okay, I'm going to spin for a little bit and think I suck and nobody's going to like me and nobody's going to interact and everybody's going to hate it. Like, this is just part of my process. I know it's not true. But I battle the head trash every single time before I take a stage. It's there. I just know I welcome it now as like, this is part of my process and this is something I get to overcome. So it's really positive mantras. It's being confident in my purpose of like, I know what I do helps people. And for me, it's like, if I don't do this, who do I not help if I don't have the bravery to go do this?
Oh,
and that's
good.
kind of like the challenge to me is like, just go help people, like just go show up. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I love that, because that's not even just for that one time going on stage. It's really pursuing your purpose, right? And that fear that keeps you from that. But our purpose is meant to help people. I mean, we were given all these unique talents, and that was ultimately, you were supposed to find your way to what you found and to help other people. If not, what's the point? So that fear wants you to shut up and sit down, And it's funny how they say, so even simple tools like changing the word, it's somewhere we must have met before. I don't know. I must have heard you somewhere, because I do the same thing. I'm not nervous. I'm excited. And I say, I get like kind of warm, and I get adrenaline, and I really see it as excitement, but that was a choice. That's a choice.
Right.
And so you do those, and you also allow yourself to kind of deal with worst case scenarios. It sounds like you play that, you spin through that, like, oh, it's going to be, but then you bring yourself back, right? And you go out powerful.
Right. Because one of the things that really trips people up, well, there's a couple of things, like expecting perfection is the quickest way to incite fear, because perfection isn't attainable, and people don't trust things that are too perfect, right? People want the story. They want you in all of your fullness. Yes. To show up and just be another human with them. They like my favorite speakers, like this, it's so interesting, and I pay more attention than probably the average person, but my favorite speakers are the ones that show up flaws and all and just have a conversation with me, right? The stories and the messes and the who knows what's going to happen, and those are the people I'm excited to be in the audience for. I don't want the person that's so well rehearsed that they're robotic, or that they've dialed their emotions down because they don't think that's what a speaker does, right? We have all these made up rules. And so I have had to, along the way, really challenge my made up rules of, oh, a speaker does this, or an expert does this, or, well, that's who, right? Like, says who? Like, who's making the rules? And I think when you give yourself that grace and you just decide that however I show up is exactly how I need to show up, it gives you that courage then to just do what you need to do and be okay with however it turns out. I rehearse and I record myself, and I critique and I rehearse and I record and critique, like this whole thing, especially when I'm running a new keynote, or I really care about every audience I'm in front of, but there are some that I like just really, really just feel so invested in that I want to be perfect, right?
Yeah.
Right. And it never comes out anything like how I rehearse it.
Never.
And what I've learned is the rehearsing and the practice is to give me the confidence to just go do what I need to do. And it's not for them, it's for me. And it would probably show up the same one way or the other, but I need to know that I have invested the time to practice. So that's one of my tips too, is always just rehearse, record, rehearse, hear it, say it, watch it without listening to it to see how you're showing up, like really with your presence and your presentation. of yourself, and then listen to it without watching it to make sure you're interesting vocally. And just keep kind of critiquing and tweaking until you feel confident about how you're showing up.
But then it's funny because the content, that's part of you because you know it so well. So
right.
it comes differently, all of that is kind of what you're saying are great tips and tools for how do we look from an energy standpoint, how do we sound, but the actual content is so a part of you that when you get there and you get into your groove, it just comes out, doesn't it? And you're amazed sometimes the things that come out of you because it's so a part of what you're supposed to be doing, and just having that confidence that I have my content, I know my content, right? And it does, it comes out when you get on stage. So how
it does. And that's, I think people don't lean on their knowledge enough. Like they don't trust themselves enough is where a lot of fear comes from too.
Yeah, I agree with you. So give us some fun things when it comes to body language and watching people. What are the things that people wonder most about when they ask you, like, how do I tell if someone's lying? How do I tell if, just share with us some of the tricks of the trade, because I think it's a fascinating space you're in.
Yeah, well, I love it. I would talk about this forever, but a couple of things that you can really just pay attention to, not only in yourself, but when you're decoding other people, is how our relationship to how much space we claim conveys messages. And conversely, the space that other people around us are taking up or is conveying, we're decoding messages from them too. So when you are wanting to appear confident, or when you are wanting to make a great first impression, taking up space is a great tool because it does two things. It shows people are kind of always subconsciously decoding you and picking up cues from you. So when you feel confident enough to take up space, people read that as confidence, or they read that as someone to pay attention to. Oh, like you're not playing small. And I think that conveys a lot. And when you think about when you walk into a conference room, or you walk into a lunch, and you see how much space different people are taking up just in the area around them and in front of them, you have already started assigning value to those people's level of confidence based on how much space they're taking up. So to use that to your advantage, you just walk in, shoulders back, head up, take up space, don't shrink down. Like, we spend a lot of time with like our faces and our phones kind of all, we default ourselves into a low confidence position where we're telling our body, oh, get small, be protective. Our body actually gets more anxious the smaller and more protective that we get from a external position. Like, the internal informs the external, but the opposite is true as well. So the external informs how we feel inside. So when we get small, our body says, ooh, we're small. We need to protect. We need to be afraid. And so it spikes our cortisol levels. It can increase your anxiety if you're prone to that. Like, playing small actually really conveys a very loud message that you are not confident, which may not be the case at all, but that's the vibe you're giving. Whereas being open, because you can still check your phone and take up a lot of space, right? Like, it's just one mindful little movement is from small to big, and it conveys a totally different message. Standing with your legs slightly offset, like a little bit wider than your hips. And again, you don't have to go like, I like to grab all the space when I'm really nervous, like before I talk or before an important phone call or negotiation. I go somewhere that I can just like literally starfish and get as big as I can. It just reminds you that you're worthy of taking up space. There's a lot of correlation between worth and confidence. So if you struggle with feeling worthy in a situation or feeling worthy in yourself, claiming space and just allowing your body to like have that domain can be so powerful to just change your mindset and the physiology of your body, and then also the messaging that you're sending non-verbally. So I'm a big fan of using your space, squaring up with people, using how we position ourselves with other people, showing direct engagement by having our shoulders, hips, and knees kind of squared up with people when we're engaged with them, or having meaningful conversation or trying to build trust and connection, as opposed to maybe being a little offset or standoffish. Like, that's the term we hear a lot. That can literally mean how you position your body. It's sending cues to other people. So just having this awareness of what is going to optimize my chance of connecting with someone in the way I want to, and being really intentional about using that, because people's brains are always decoding you. We're really good at it. It's kind of that back office software that we never pay attention to. But you can help people. I always say help people reach the right conclusion about you.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that. So what you're feeling inside may or may not match with what you're doing outside. I mean, you can go into a situation, full of fear and not having the confidence, but you present yourself physically, and you're saying that actually feedback to your inside, to your brain, can calm you down and make you feel more confident, and vice versa. So we have to be, the external means something. And if you have to fake that, not fake it, but force it, it'll help you calm down in terms of, the fear that you're feeling inside. Do you find that people, if they do this enough, it comes naturally to them? Is that what happens?
Yeah, it's kind of like training, it's training yourself on how you want to autopilot or how you want to react. One of the exercises that I do, which is great for anybody listening or watching today, is before you go into an interaction, whether it's meeting someone new and making a first impression, or whether it's giving a presentation, or sometimes, like for me, I do it like when I need to shift gears from being like work Lisa to mom Lisa. Like that's kind of two different ways I need to show up in my space. Is I'll just do a quick, it's 3 words, and it's like setting your intention. So if someone were to meet you and talk to you for 60 seconds and you left, and someone asked them, hey, what did you think about her or him? What 3 words would you hope that person would use to describe you during that interaction?
I like that.
Yeah, and so the challenge that I give every audience that I'm in front of is, for the next 3 days, think about your 3 words every time you walk into a room. And what that does is it starts training your brain that, like, hey brain, before we walk into a room, we're going to figure out what our intention is. And it really serves it's like setting your internal GPS. Because once you've set the intention of the experience you want to create for whoever's on the other side of you, your body language starts supporting it, your vocal tonality starts supporting it, your facial expression starts supporting it, and you've just given yourself a really clear path to the type of interaction that you want to craft.
Wow, that's great.
It's so much easier than we think it is. Like, we think good communication has to be so hard, and it doesn't. It's 10 seconds of intentionality. Set your internal GPS with your 3 words, and then just have the confidence to know you're going to walk in and create that experience.
That's amazing. The word intention is so important in all of that. So you show up for your kids differently. It's a way for you to shut off work, like shut off the Lisa work, and then you show up for the kids differently. You do that on purpose.
I do, and the reason I do, like, my famous move. So I've been very mindful about how I set my schedule, and so I try to always drop my daughter off for school in the morning, and I try to pick her up from school or from practice in the evening. But I'm usually like tearing through town, hair on fire, late from a meeting, stuck in traffic. Right? Like,
right.
I'm usually not my most amazing self when I show up in the carpool line, right? Like, let's just be honest. And so I have to just pause and breathe and be like, she does not need rushed, stressed, frustrated mom. Yeah. Like, when she gets in the car, I need to be attentive. I need to be like light or free-spirited or joking, and I need to just be inquisitive with her, right? Ask questions and share that experience. So for me, just shifting that gear from like, okay, like, still valid and true, yes, but now this is how I want to show up. And some days I fail and I'm just like stressed, or I'm on a call still when she gets in the car, which she's super annoyed about, but she gives me a ton of grace, because she knows it's for the greater good. It's just that moment of intentionality to create that experience can just be such a gift to whoever is on the other side of you.
Yeah, and being intentional about the audience you're in front of, it's your family, or it's work, or it's your boss, or whatever that is. So you mentioned in the beginning, kind of in your path to doing this, you tripped up on some things, right? You said there was some fear, some detours. That's good. By the
Yeah.
way, I'm glad to hear that, Lisa, because then I know you're in your purpose, right? I mean,
Oh
now
my
I
gosh.
found it, because it's not an easy path. If it's easy, I'm gonna say it may not be your purpose, but that's a different conversation. Do you want to share just anything along that journey that you learned, and especially with fear that could have stopped you, right? When you trip up, when you have failure can then tell you you should be afraid, or we're afraid of failure. So is there anything in that process that you want to share?
Yeah. So I had a business venture that I was super excited about. It was a dream of mine that came to reality, which how many people get to say that, right? But then the dream, the reality version of the dream felt very different. And so that was one of my like biggest, I'm a type A overachiever. I don't fail. And I had to shut down 4 retail locations and lay off 50 people that were like my family. That was like, I'm never starting a business again. I suck as an entrepreneur. I failed as a business owner. I'm going to take my ball and go home, and I'm never doing this again, no matter what. Like, had to file bankruptcy, like the whole 9, right? Like really devastating, really challenging to just everything I thought I was and could do. And yet here I am, right? I have this company. I've been a tech co-founder. I've like 3 or 4 other businesses, but it was really just challenging. Like, I am not a thing for a place. I am a person of worth that can add value in whatever I put my energy into. And I had been defined by my achievements. I had been defined by recognition in my corporate career. I had been defined by hitting that next milestone, and none of it was me. Right?
That's right.
It was something I was in and something I was part of. But when you hang your identity on an accomplishment or a business or a level of success, when that changes, then you don't know who you are. And it took me like 7 or 8 years, honestly, to like really own it, because I was victim, right? Oh, bad things happened. Well, no, it was me. It was me. It was always me. And then to identify it, and then like own it, identify it, make peace with it, and then rebuild from that. Like, that was kind of my process. And it's not easy and it's not quick. And people who say it isn't something to be afraid of is wrong, because it's painful. And it challenges your worth, your feelings of worth, and it'll uncover every like childhood trauma you ever had and didn't know you have to fail that bad. But man, then what I can get in front and share with my coaching clients and share with my audiences and be a testimony to of like, hey, like there is another side of this. Like, that's what I feel like part of my story and part of the reason I do what I do now is to just show like it sucks and it's horrible. And if I can help you not have to have the experiences that I had, then this is all worth it.
Yeah. So and that's part of it, is if I can help you not go there, but it's also, if you do go there, I survived it, I'm thriving, right? There is life on the other side. It happens. Failure is part of what we go through, and it's on the path to finding what we do. And then we have our small failures we have every day or every week, but kind of that big, we're okay with that, because anytime you own your own business, all your stuff is on the table, right? I mean, there is no
always.
And it's even the stuff, like you said, all the childhood stuff. I mean, it's probably the best self-help program in the world, which is start a business. And then you have to deal. But, you know, the idea that someone else has been there before you and says, I survived and I'm thriving. And, you know, and look at what I've done with all of this, I think is one of the most beneficial messages out there. So you have a unique space, you have a unique niche and all of that, but you have a story that helps everybody who wants to thrive and succeed in entrepreneurism and find their lane, because they have to know failure and fear is part of the story, right?
No, nobody gets out alive. Like that's my motto, right? Like, and I have an unusually high risk tolerance now, just because I'm like, I've already been to the bottom. Like, I've bankrupt, I've divorced, I've packed a U-Haul and moved away. Like, I've done it, and none of it was ever part of the plan, but it happened. And so if I can deal with that, I am not special or different. But it took me, like, that was a story I didn't want to tell for the longest time. I'm like, oh, I help business just do this and that. And it's like, no. You help people figure out their worthiness so they can go do the great things they're meant to do.
Oh, I love that.
But to do that, you have to own your own crap first. Right? Yeah. And that's one of the biggest fears I had, was like, oh, everybody's going to judge me, or people are going to, no, like, people are so loving and gracious and appreciative if you just like show up. But it's hard. There's a lot of fear there to just show up and be like, hey, this is all the things I've screwed up.
Yeah. Yeah, I know, it's so true, but it makes people feel like they can do it too, right? Because like you said earlier, if we're looking at perfection, nobody feels that connection. They want to see you, come as your real self. And so in this case, your story helps people say, wow, okay, I'm okay. Look at her. She's managed to pull this all together. I didn't even realize that part of your story. I was just so attracted to what you do. So look at the value you just brought. That's amazing. Say what you said again about helping people find, I'm not going to quote it right, about helping them find their true selves. You said it.
Yeah, it's about helping people realize their worthiness. Because until you feel worthy, you feel like you aren't powerful. And as soon as you realize how worthy you are, and whatever your story looks like the inherent worth of being born human is all you ever need, right? But we're told that there's all these standards and tests and expectations, and that we fail everything, spectacularly, more than we could ever achieve based on standards. Yeah. But it's like, no, there is no test. Like, you already won. Like, you started with an A. You're fully equipped. You can always optimize, right? You can always learn and build and figure out new things that light you up. But like, you come fully loaded. You're fully equipped. Like, you don't need to give yourself demerits. It's already there. So it's just helping people figure out that, like, helping them see it. Like, I just reflect. I'm just a mirror. When I coach, I'm just a mirror of what they need to see.
Yes. That's what a good coach is.
I'm kind of a detective of figuring out what part of their story are they not listening to, or like, won't they own, like, even good stuff. Like, you always think people won't own the bad stuff. We're more likely to own the horror stories than we are the accolades, which is like the fatal flaw. Yeah.
Yeah. It's easier. Yeah. It's like easier to live with the bad stuff in some ways, because it keeps us safe. Because if we believe the good stuff and the accolades, what if it's not true? What if I fail again? Then I've taken a risk. It's easier to stay in the negative. So you're right. That happens as well. That's a trap, right? That we stay in that and we define ourselves by that. So yeah, wow, Lisa.
Yeah, and you get into systemic messaging, and that's a whole nother episode. The lies we believe.
Wow. Okay, we have to do that one next time, because I'm all about, my whole teaching is based on finding limiting beliefs, right? And the lies that we're believing. And I think one of the reasons I wanted to do the summit is because there's so much fear out there. And I feel like, whatever the subject is, it's like there's fear based in lies. And we have to find the truth. We have to find the truth about ourselves. We have to find tools to keep us walking in truth. Otherwise, it's a trap we don't get out of. So I love the way you flow. I love this. I mean, it's a lot more than just body language. It's really valuable stuff. So how can people do more with you? How can they get more information about what you do? How can they interact with your content? Tell us about that.
Yeah, the best place to find from a business standpoint is powerbodylanguage.com. All the fun stuff, though, like Instagram and TikTok and all of that, is at Lisa Mitchell Indy, INDY. I'm going to have a free offer that we'll link up here as well, where if people want to kind of check in on their own level of confidence and see how they're helping or hurting themselves, they'll have access to that. And I love to connect. So if anybody wants to schedule time with me just to chat, if there's questions I can answer from the episode, I am available, and you can find me literally everywhere. So I love to connect. I love to follow up.
Wow. I'm so glad that you came on. You're so unique. You have a great message. I love your presence. And I just feel that
likewise.
You're going to help. You're going to help somebody. And that's what this is all about. So somebody right now is connecting with this story. And I hope that whoever that is, that you seek Lisa out and get more information and more encouragement, right? Because that's a good thing about social media. There's a lot of encouragement. If you want it, it's out there. And that's the blessing of social media. The curse may be all the lies, but the blessing, right, is the access to people like you. So, Lisa, I can't thank you enough for doing this and bringing this to the community. We'll do something in the future, I can tell, because I really admire what you do. So thank you again.
Thank you. And thank you for creating space for us to all learn together, because it's a very worthy endeavor. And I appreciate you creating the opportunity for
Absolutely. Well, we all need it. So we'll be back and do something in the future. And guys, look below, because we're going to put the link to her free offer there. And so you can go do more with Lisa. Lisa, thank you so much.
Thanks so much.
We'll talk to you soon.